It's the Pulse of the City featuring DJ Robert S.
On 102.5 FM.
West Michigan, this is Robert S. on the Pulse of the City right here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And today we are very proud to present to you the esteemed House Representative from South Carolina, 6th Congressional District, U.S. House Representative James Clyburn. Welcome to the show they love to call the Pulse of the City, sir.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I hope you're having a good day.
We're having a great day here in Grand Rapids, great weather, and a great time to talk about this important election that's coming up. One of the things we have as a topic is the launch of black voters for President Biden and Vice President Harris, our first black female vice president. And black voters supported Biden in large numbers in his last election. Now there are rumors circulating in the media, especially conservative media, that Biden might have a problem with black voters. I don't think so, but I'd like to have your opinion and what they are doing to make sure that they have support from black voters in this election. House Representative Clyburn.
Well, thank you so much for framing it that way, because I agree with you. I don't think there's a problem that African Americans have with this president or the vice president. You said it correctly. These rumors are circulating in the conservative talk world, and they're being recast and broadcast in mainstream media, and it makes it look as if there's some truth to it. We just had an election here over in Maryland, African American woman running for the United States Senate in the Democratic primary against a well-funded multi-millionaire. 2 days before the election, polls came out and said she was 7 points down. One said she was 5 points down. Well, 3 days later, after the morning after the election, she had won by 13 points. So all of this is about all of this media trying to suppress and depress black voters and black voting. That's what this is all about. So I would say to the African American community, look at these two candidates. Don't listen to this foolishness. Why would any African American have any reason to vote for Donald Trump? I've been asking people, give me one single reason you can vote for Trump. I can give you reason after reason after reason as to why you ought to be voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's very clear. Look at the record. Who is the one out here making health care more affordable? So my late wife used to pay $600 a month for her insulin.
For instance, Joe Biden has capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. That is a tremendous benefit to senior citizens, especially those on Medicare. My late wife lost a 30-year battle to diabetes, and I saw her insulin bill sometimes $600 per month. That is a big savings to people on Medicare. But he didn't stop there. We now have put in place a program that says nobody on Medicare will have a co-payment of more than $2,000 a year. That's a big deal. Now, what does Donald Trump feel about that? He was upset and denigrated John McCain for one reason only, because John McCain cast a decided vote that allowed the Affordable Care Act to continue to exist. If John McCain had voted no, or voted yes, that program would have come to an end. And we would not have, I think I read somewhere the other day, 14 million new people with health insurance that did not have health insurance before. And this is what Joe Biden is doing. Creating jobs, lowering the cost of insulin, taking care of veterans. We went back in the back alley and picked up those black soldiers who came home for the Vietnam War were not treated fairly and given them the attention they needed. Some of them in my district have gone from 15 to 20% disability up to 95 and 100%. That's what is going on here. And so I would say to your listeners, you got a real clear choice here. One guy running for president who want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, who wanted to get rid of the program, student loan debt cancellation, the guy who wanted to have retribution for everybody that opposed him, retribution for anybody that prosecutes him for breaking the laws. He ought to be able to break the laws he want to break, and because he's president, he should not be called to account for them. Is that who you want to be president? Or the guy whose own son is now being exposed to the judicial system, just found guilty, and he says, I will not pardon him, nor will I commute his sentence. I will let the system run as it should run. Now, when I hear people say to me that on TV the other day, some rapper saying black folks are going to vote for Trump because they can identify with him being charged with these RICO statutes. I think black folks ought to vote with the guy who says my son would be treated no different than any black person's son, not the guy who is trying to have the system work to his favor and the detriment of everybody else. And he looks out at an audience, as he did a couple of days ago. And says, I don't care how uncomfortable you are, all I want is your vote. That's the kind of disrespect that he's showing, not just to black people, but he's showing that to his own MAGA followers as well. I don't care about your condition. All I want is your vote.
Wow. When we look at Biden's outreach to black voters versus Trump's visit to Detroit and his lack of outreach, how would you describe some of Biden's campaign outreach and touch upon Trump's visit to Detroit and his lack of outreach there?
Well, I'm on my way to San Diego, California later today, and I'm going to be speaking out there tomorrow, and I'm going to be calling from people in that audience. And I'm going to just say to them, every one of you that are members of a church, your church ought to be adopted in the precinct. Every one of you that are members of the Divine Nine, fraternities and sororities, your fraternity and sorority, your chapter ought to be adopted in the precinct. Every one of you who are in a Masonic group, me personally, I'm a 33rd degree Mason, Prince Hall, 33rd degree Mason. And every Masonic lodge ought to be adopted in the precinct. Nobody is telling anybody how to vote. We are saying to everybody, you should vote. Why? Because Jim Crow, that ruled this land, and for almost 100 years, came into being by one vote. A vote of 185 to 184 put Jim Crow in place, brought an end to Reconstruction. Every single vote counts. And I can tell you, Michigan is going to be one of, if not the most important state in this election. Every single vote in Michigan, especially every single black vote, will count. We got to get them to the polls. We just can't sit back and pray for us. I grew up in the Boston's. And I used to hear people testifying on Sunday mornings and Wednesday and Friday evenings in prayer meetings. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. If you want the Lord to make you an instrument, you want the Lord to help make you a helpmate. That's what instruments are. They ought to be used to get a job done. And so a rake is an instrument that's used to clean the yard. Every one of us ought to be instruments that will be used to improve the lives of our children and grandchildren going forward. And the way we do that is to get people to the polls. Because if you got a guy on one side saying, I'm going to be your retribution if I get back in office, I'm going to jail those people who are opponents of mine, I'm going to put in jail those people who had the temerity to indict me for my wrongdoing. I ought to be able to do wrong if I want to, and you don't have to have no authority to make me account for it. So that's the choice here. We got a clear choice in this election. And it's not the first time we've had this choice. We had this choice before, and we made the wrong decision. Now, it wasn't their fault. You go back, all of the violence, you know, and people were murdered for trying to vote. Some of them done legally. A lot of people died in Alabama during my lifetime, and Mississippi, trying to vote. They've not done that recently in South Carolina, but back in the 1870s, when all this was going on, a lot of that murder took place right there in South Carolina. I represent some of those communities where all that took place. So maybe that's what makes me different from a lot of other people. So these people walk around saying how great I am because I'm a rapper, and I can be for this guy, Trump, who shows nothing but disdain for black people. Not me. I know my history better than that. And it's not about me. It's about my children and grandchildren. And for anybody to go out here to aid and abet a guy who showed nothing but disrespect to the first black president of the United States, who took a full pay ad out of the New York Times against 5 young people of color who were proven to be innocent. And when he was asked to apologize for what he did, he says, I've never done anything that I need to apologize for. What kind of person is that?
Wow.
That's not the kind of person that ought to be president of this country. And any black person going out voting for him, they really ought to take stock of themselves and ask themselves, am I honoring the sacrifices made by my parents and grandparents to get me to this point? Well, my parents made big sacrifices for me to be sitting here in the Congress, and I'm not going to do anything that violates that sacrifice.
I'm from Grand Rapids here where we're interviewing you at, but I did live in Schaumburg Apartments in Harlem, 110th and 5th Street, when the Central Park 5 that I would see passing me daily in Schaumburg Apartments with one living there, and just really remembering when Donald Trump not only brought out that ad against him, he asked for the execution of these juveniles at that time. That, on top of the fact that Donald Trump wants to give police officers immunity for all crimes, he wants that to be a national law. I have to totally agree with you, House Rep Clyburn, that I'm going to listen to common sense and not the rappers. And as we move on, just want to hear a few more of the tangible results that President Biden has given the black community to remind them why they need to come out and support Joe Biden.
Well, I think that the very first bill that Joe Biden got passed, and not a single Republican voted for it, was the so-called rescue plan. That was the plan that lifted over half of the children living in poverty were immediately lifted out of poverty. That was what we did to get schools reopened, get businesses back flourishing again. The rescue plan. And you put stuff in that rescue plan that allows people to use creative approaches to get things done in their communities. For instance, we are now connecting every home and every business in South Carolina to the internet. And how are we doing that? We're using the money, in fact, $600 million